What's up, Habs fans? This is the Habs Tonight post-game show with myself, Damon, and Marco. The Habs fall 3-2 to the Colorado Avalanche in overtime, a result that not many people expected, myself included. I thought we were going to get destroyed tonight, but hey, the boys hang in there, and they gave us actually a pretty good game. How did you guys like the game?
Loved it. I know it was a difficult loss and a tough pill to swallow, but it was definitely a very fun game to watch. As I'm sure we know, Optimus Prime has earned his nickname Optimus Prime and is really showing that he can be a starter in the league in the next few years.
Oh, yeah.
It was a really fun pleasure to watch him play tonight and on the stage that he did. And also, we kept the big three off the scoreboard, at least through regulation, except in 3-on-3 overtime. We know when you give those guys that much space, they're bound to get a point.
Exactly. And I mean, from the start of the game, too, I don't think the odds were really stacked in our favor. I mean, just the wagon that Colorado is. On top of that, they're second in the NHL for home wins. So that was another obstacle that we had to go on top of that. But no, the boys played a really solid game. We had a really solid showing from Toffoli, Suzuki as usual, but also the other guys that we recently added to our lineup, like Hoffman and Dvorak, who both played really good games. So this was encouraging from our new quote-unquote investments from this offseason. And Primo, obviously, too, he had a career high in saves. I believe it was 42, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
43.
Yeah. But no, he was remarkable. And I mean, I know I've been saying all year that Montembeault has been the guy this season, but Primo's starting to make a case for himself now. I think right now for backups, we're pretty set. So it's better definitely to have two elite backups that we could be debating and having a conversation over than one so-so one and one great one. So yeah, great performance from the boys.
No, that's it. I'm sure Kent Hughes is pretty happy seeing how well both guys have been doing. Primo tonight was phenomenal. He was really in the zone, and it just kept the team in it. And I mean, the boys overall played really good game. That line with Suzuki, Toffoli, and Lehkonen, again tonight they've performed. Suzuki with a goal and an assist. I believe Toffoli had 2 assists or just one.
Yep.
But
I think he just had one.
All three of those guys played fantastic tonight. Which begs me to ask. So Lehkonen has been rumored to be in trade rumors. I think the Rangers inquired about him. Now this, putting him on the first line, getting a nice game like this definitely ups his value. Would you guys still consider trading Lehkonen?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would definitely say I'm not opposed to the idea because I'm sure we know we have a lot of good prospects coming up, and unfortunately, it leaves a guy like Lehkonen sort of expendable for the future. By no means am I saying he's not going to be in the league or anything. I still think he'll be in the league on another team, even if. But I definitely think Lehkonen could very easily be traded, and I do think the value is there for him. As I'm sure we know, in his first season, he got 18 goals, but would have been on pace for 20 had he played out the full 82 games. And the other thing with Lehkonen is he's very responsible defensively, and you sort of saw his role change in Montreal as it came around to the second/third season. He was still getting power play time in the second season, but as the third season till now, he hasn't really gotten very much power play time. So I definitely think you can get a good value for him, and if a team really knows how good he is, and I definitely think if he gets the power play time, if a time traveler from the future came back and told me he would just score 30 goals 1 year, I would not be surprised. That's how you know how good Lehkonen is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough one there just because I think Lehkonen's one of those really like sneaky, underrated players who performs for your team game in, game out. Maybe like he does contribute a lot defensively, like you said, Damon, which is a really underrated asset. And because of this and because of the versatility that he brings to our team and how we could kind of plug him in anywhere new, he'll still sort of contribute. This could be a big assets for other teams who obviously are looking into him I could definitely see some teams like the Rangers, for example, getting a hold of Lehkonen for kind of like a depth piece, because that's kind of what he is for us. So just one of those players you kind of plug in anywhere, and they'll bring in the intensity, and they'll bring in the offensive and defensive side of the game and just produce for your team overall. So, I mean, I think it really comes down to what kind of an offer the Habs get for a player like Lehkonen, because obviously he could be utilized on our team as a depth piece. But with that being said, I think the Habs also have a lot of offensive depth already on their team, to the point where that they'll be all right without Lehkonen. But obviously it's a huge asset to have him on your team as well. So I think this is all in the hands of the offer and what we could get for a player like Lehkonen.
Yeah, and another underrated aspect from Lehkonen's game, in my opinion, is really his defensive style. He can play on the PK, and he does a really good job at it. So I think like his value is pretty damn high, and teams should inquire about him. I don't know, like you said, Marco, it really depends on the offer if we should move him or not. But I personally would be open to it, considering the young guys that we have coming up and what our roster should look like next year. So it's going to be something interesting to keep an eye on. But another guy I'd like to touch on real quick is Christian Dvorak, who kind of has flown under the radar, but he's been sneaky good these past couple of games. Again, tonight with an assist. He finished with one assist, one shot on goal, 2 hits, and finished 60% in the face-off circle, which is something that we need desperately. So how do you guys like Christian Dvorak's game recently?
I really liked his game recently. The thing is with Christian Dvorak, we of course know he was brought in to replace Jesperi Kotkaniemi, but I feel with the way he's winning faceoffs and sometimes when he's out there on the penalty kill and when he's playing against the other top lines, he reminds me glimpses, and I say glimpses very very lately, of Phil Deneau in a way, because he's pretty good defensively but can still produce offensively on the power play. But I've really liked Christian Dvorak so far, and I could see him having a nice long-term future here in Montreal as more of a shutdown center, as he's been proven to be good. He reminds me a lot of Philip Deneau, as I said before, but I could see him in the shutdown role as a center with his face-off winning ability.
Yeah, for sure. I think Dvorak got off to a little bit of a slow start here in Montreal at the beginning of the season. And then after, once the injuries start piling up, obviously when you don't have that set line that you could build chemistry with throughout the year in practices and in games, it's a big effect on you. It could weigh on your shoulders a little bit, and therefore your production won't be as high as it normally could be. But we've seen recently, when the lineup starts to get a little bit healthier after every game, we see players like Anderson, Toffoli making their ways back. And the power play now also, that's another piece I want to talk on later. That's something that's been really clicking as well. We could see, once we have all these pieces combined together, someone like Dvorak, who we know could produce and didn't really necessarily come out to the best start at the beginning of the season, is someone that has really shown us our return on our investment. And like you said, Damon, I think he could be a good sort of shutdown center, and you could compare him to the likes of Phil Deneau. He is definitely an underrated, sneaky center, and he does produce when he has to. And tonight was a good game, especially for him. And recently, he's shown these signs as well. So I'm happy from what I've been seeing with him, and the power play especially. I mean, this is something we have scored now, I think, in 5 straight games. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe so.
That is unreal, considering the lack of intensity, or not intensity, but the lack of threat, I guess you could say, our probably has seen this season. But recently, no, it's been really clicking, and Burrows has really been making a case for himself to stay over there behind the bench for our special teams. I mean, I think the penalty kill still has a little bit of work that needs to be done, considering we did give up 2 power play goals tonight against Colorado, which is definitely not a team you want to be giving power play opportunities to. But yeah, on our end of the power play, it's been really clicking, at least.
No, that's it. I really enjoy what we're doing here. And we were talking recently about, the coaching changes, and if Burrows could get cut as well, since the power play hasn't been doing well. I've always been a fan of his, because I remember when we let go Kirk Muller and we brought in Burrows for the power play, it instantly clicked. So it was a matter of time. He just needed to get the boys back, right, from injury. Now we've got, Toffoli, Suzuki, Dvorak, Hoffman, who are all there. We're missing Caulfield. But overall, we've got the guys to do it, and we're doing it. So Shout out to Alex Burrows. I think he's doing a great job, and hopefully he keeps doing that great job. So aside from that, if we look at our defensive core tonight, Jeff Petry took a stick to the face. That was a heck of a shot by Kadri, but overall, I thought he played a decent game. Finished with a +1, 1 shot on goal, 4 hits, 21 minutes of ice time. So slowly but surely, the Petry of old is kind of coming back. Again, there's so many trade rumors around his name, but how do you guys like Petry's game so far?
I think he's definitely getting back into the swing of things when he was with Edmondson. Even though he doesn't have Edmondson, he's definitely slowly getting back to the level that we know he was at last year, even when he didn't have Edmondson. But he's definitely been really good, in my opinion, so far from when he's returned. And I'm definitely hoping that he can definitely get back to that fully old Jeff Petry, at least before the season starts, and we could see him with Edmondson again, and then just show how good our fully healthy lineup could be. And I've really liked his game, especially today. And that was a heck of a shot that he took from Kadri, man. Like, I don't even know if I would come back from that.
Yeah, he was cut pretty good there. Got him quite good.
Yeah, that was rough for Petry, but I mean, no, he's been playing really well recently, and he's kind of showing not quite the signs as how he played last season, but he's trending in the positive direction. I think you could definitely say, especially compared to the horrendous start that we had at the beginning. But I think that's mainly due to the fact that we have more guys returning to the lineup and just the team clicking more overall. And I think that's also a confidence factor for Petry too. And this is a very encouraging sign for the future too in our next games to come, because we've already seen him progress in the right direction so far. So potentially now till the end of the season, if we see even more positive regression, I think that's just even better signs for the future. And when you look at a guy like Petry, I know you could obviously get a lot of value for someone like him and obviously Sherratt if you choose to trade those guys. But this is something I wanted to ask you guys too. If I'm the Canadiens, I'm personally not trying to sell Petry, one, for the veteran factor, and two, just because of the potential and the upside that he brings to our team, especially given the uncertainty with Shea Weber's career. So now I'll pass for you guys. I'll ask you guys each what you guys think about the Jeff Petry situation, and if we get a good enough offer, if you're open to letting him go, or if you're really trying to prioritize keeping him in our lineup.
Yeah, I think it really has to depend on the offer itself. I'm not sure what I'd be willing to give up. Well, what I'd be willing to do to give up Jeff Petry, like what kind of offer I would accept. It's a tough call, really, because we know what kind of upside this guy has. If he gets going, he's one of the better defensemen in the league. Like last season, he was in the running for the Norris Trophy for like the first half of the season. So if he really gets back into his groove, maybe with Edmondson on his side, we get our top defensive pairing back. But hey, if a team gives us an offer that we can't refuse, I'm up for it. Might as well.
I completely agree with that, but the other thing I have to account for that is whether we're gonna it's gonna be, whether it's reset, retool, rebuild. I definitely think if this team just does a light reset, maybe where we just move a couple of players or change a couple of pieces, I definitely think you gotta keep Petry because he's a very good right-handed defenseman when healthy, and right-handed defensemen are very hard to come across. I remembered when we were much younger, there was a lot of good right-handed defensemen. Remember, it's Prime Subban, Prime Carlson, Prime Doughty. A lot of those guys were really good, and they were all right-handed in their prime. But Jeff Petry's in his prime, and he's still right-handed, and a lot of the other good right-handed defensemen, like Cale Makar, and I find nowadays there's not as many good right-handed defensemen. I find a lot of the other good defensemen in the modern day game are left-handed. So I definitely think a guy like Petry, if you're going to trade him, you have to get the maximum value out of him. And it also depends on whether you're rebuilding or not. If you're rebuilding, he's playing well. It's something, if I were GM, as much as it pains me to say, and I know a lot of people are probably emotionally attached to Petry, like as much as I am to a lot of the guys on the team, I'd do it in a heartbeat because you can get good value for that guy. We know what Carolina was offering from a first-round pick and Jake Bean, and that first-round pick became Seth Jarvis, who's someone who I could see being a number 1 or 2 center in the league. But in Carolina, he's playing on the wing, and he's playing on the line with Jesperi Kotkaniemi. So Yeah, just shout out to Jesper Kotkaniemi playing with Seth Jarvis, but yeah, those two could have been playing together in Montreal if we made that trade with Petry. But yeah, I just think it's kind of depends on what Kent Hughes wants to do with the team. So that's kind of my opinion right now.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, with kind of the scarcity with the really talented right-handed defenseman, like you said, that's obviously a factor that needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to Jeff Petry. But you also, like you said, it depends on what Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon want to do with the organization going forward. If they want to build their team around, because we know the Canadiens have a stacked young defensive prospect lineup. It's like when Gooley comes in and even Mayu when eventually he does make the team. I mean, that's going to be scary for a lot of teams. And I'll board the Romanov train there over there. Like he's another guy. Like that's why I'm saying defensively. Like let's say we do even get rid of Petry and Sherrod, I think we're in a good position still. But you definitely need to take advantage of Jeff Petry's value. If we're saying that Ben Sherrod could go for a first round pick, let's say, I definitely think you could get that and a good prospect for Jeff Petry at the minimum, because I do think he provides a lot more upside than Sherrod. And I mean, they're both different players. We know Petry's more of an offensive weapon than Sherrod is, but that just adds to his value. And there's so many teams who would be looking for someone like that. I mean, you have Adam Fox for the Rangers, you have Makar for the Avalanche. I mean, these guys aren't easy to come by, you know, and once you have that guy on your team, they're really franchise pieces. So maybe he could be one for another team. I definitely hope he remains that for us. But yeah, I mean, once again, it really depends on the offer, what we could get for someone like that, which I think very highly of Petry. So I would assume it'd be something up there in the first round plus prospect sort of range.
Yeah, that's it. We'd have to stay tuned come March time with the trade deadline or maybe the summer. But boys, we got to touch on the OT here because we've had some big struggles in OT this season, kind of like last season. We can't get a win to save our lives. And again, this question, I like it because what do we have to do to get Romy on the ice? This guy's fast. He can move the puck. Like, I don't get it. He's not just a defensive minded defenseman. He can do just about everything. So what needs to change here, boys?
For me, I definitely think it's something with Ducharme, because Ducharme seems to sort of have set lineups every OT. As I'm sure we know, usually it's been Suzuki and Toffoli, and I remember last year when we had a mostly healthy lineup until the playoffs came around. We're mostly healthy, it was essentially Phil Deneau, Paul Byron, Jeff Petry started every OT.
Yeah.
But this time around, usually the kind of changes from based on Ducharme's mind. Like Ducharme this season is essentially, when it comes to OT, it's kind of been like an 8-ball. Every time you shake it, you get a different answer who's going to be starting. But Romy doesn't seem to be in the 8-ball to me. That if that makes any sense, he should definitely be someone who plays in OT. And we know the way the season's going. Like we do know that we are more than likely aren't making the playoffs, and I definitely think Romy deserves a shot, because we, of course, is like the reasons you listed, Shane. He's fast, can move the puck, he can hit. That's definitely great. If we could get a double D on an OT with Romy as the train, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going into the season and the point that we are now, I'm more saying why not throw him in there? I mean, it's not like we have a whole lot to lose, so might as well experiment, right? While you're going through this type of season. I mean, I think it's already a trend in the right direction from kind of sitting Sherrod out of this one, because I think we could all agree he hasn't been the most productive in overtime. I don't know whether it's fatigue that sets in with him, but I just find few mental lapses sometimes. I mean, it happens with all players, but we've seen it over and over, because like you said, Ducharme has usually his set lineups for OT, and we've seen a lot of Sherrod to be able to see that, okay, maybe this guy isn't meant for the overtime scenario. So just going to Petry, I think is even better. I think they decide to put him in this game against the Avalanche just because you do need that veteran kind of the better defensively minded player to handle the weapons that, like, Colorado's 3-on-3 lineup is insane, arguably like top 3 in the league. So I mean, to throw in a young guy like Romanov, it's very scary for him. I mean, it's definitely a challenge, but it's a lot of responsibility for him to take. And I mean, Romanov in a 5-on-5 scenario with the intensity that he brings and the blocks, but like that's outstanding. But when it comes to 3-on-3, I think it's just a different game. So that's why I think they went with Petry today instead of Romanov. But going forward, I mean, the Habs haven't won an overtime scenario at all this year. I think they're 0-7 right now.
Yeah.
So at this point in the season, I mean, you don't even have a win under your belt to go off of. You don't have a positive sort of example for a lineup. So I mean, might as well experiment. Like I said before, throw in Romanov.
Yeah.
If you could get an overtime win, then I think you got to keep on asking the question whether or not this guy needs to become a permanent piece in your OT lineup. But I think it all depends on that first win. And I think until we get that, just keep on experimenting. I think you keep Suzuki and Toffoli there for sure. And then defenseman, you just kind of throw in different pieces there. We've seen Schraub, we've seen Petry. I think it's time for the Romy train to get on board, and we'll see what he could do with that.
I have to agree with that. I mean, I think I've seen just about every defenseman on the team go on OT except for Romanov. Like I've seen, Niku, I've seen Clague, I've even seen Kulak, I believe. So I have no idea why Romanov hasn't gotten a shot on OT. It blows my mind. And like you said, Marco, like the season's scrap. Might as well try. Like you're 0-7, nothing's working. Give him a shot. Like I don't know.
That's it.
And it's great experience, right? He's still young, but he's the future of our defensive core. So that kind of experience can go a long way. I think it's something that Duchamp should really look into. Should maybe tune in to Habs tonight and listen to us because tough look. So boys, we had some news today coming from Kent Hughes, who got on a show. I think it was TSN or something. And he said that next season, the Habs will have a captain, 100%, which begs the question, who will it be, right? Probably not going to be Weber. Everyone assumes he's going to be retired. But, the names that circle around are obviously Gallagher and Suzuki. Or could we trade for an established captain, bring him in, and let Suzuki develop under that captain, grow some more leadership? I've heard people say that Galley isn't maybe fit for a captain role, even though he has good leadership. What do you guys think?
That's definitely a good question, because I do remember when Brian Gianto was here. I remember when his contract expired, we kind of just let him go in free agency in the summer of 2014, and then Buffalo signed him because they needed that leadership there at the time. So I wonder if there's another guy this offseason that we could sign with that leadership. I definitely am not opposed to that, but I definitely think if you're going to bring in a leader, I kind of think if you're going to just have someone lead in Montreal, I personally would rather see it be Galley, because Galley plays with his heart and soul every minute of every game that he plays.
Yeah.
And I think if you bring in another guy, it would be a little bit hard, and it might be too much of a responsibility depending on who the player is. But I definitely think it's Galley, in my opinion. But as I'm sure we've probably heard, there's trade rumors around Galley. So, but if not Galley, it's definitely, in my opinion, has to be Susie or Zooks, whatever nickname you like. So, yeah. But I've met Suzuki once in person, and I can tell you, I met the guy when he was only 19, and he reminds me of an NHL veteran. So, yeah, I definitely think Suzuki would be a great captain if named, and same with Galley, because Galley, even though he doesn't have a letter, he plays like the C without Weber on the team right now.
100%. Yeah,
What do you
I
think,
mean,
Marco?
you know what I would really like to see, if I'm being honest, if we throw a little throwback in there, I'd like to see the goalie get the C once again. We've seen it once with Luongo. Can you imagine if Carey Price gets the C? He added to the little end of the mask over there. I think that would be ideal for me. But I mean, we live in an era where it's not common. I don't even think we have a goalie captain in the NHL, but that would be something. That'd be thinking outside the box, as Gordon would say. So I mean, that'd be an interesting little tidbit. But if not, I mean, I definitely agree with you 100%. I think Gallagher, because when you think of a captain, you think of the heartbeat on your team, someone that the guys look up to on and off the ice. I think that Gallagher, just game in, game out, he just exemplifies everything that the younger players and even the players that are older than him, around same age on his team, should play as, in the type of intensity that he brings every time he's on the ice. And I mean, Obviously, you see this kind of intensity too with players like Ryan Poehling and Jake Evans, but obviously, like these guys don't have the experience to be captain. But these are sort of captain like qualities on the ice. I mean, Suzuki too could be a viable candidate. I think you just need to ask about the age and whether or not he's ready to take on a role like that. But I definitely think that he would be fitting of the role. And Damon, if what you're saying is true, and if he seems captain material, very mature for his age, then who knows? I don't know Suzuki as well as a person, but I know that Gallagher definitely has the experience in the league, and he has just proven to us on the ice every year that he's a leader, even without any letters on his jersey. So, I mean, Gallagher would be. I mean, my picks would probably go if I'd had to rank him: Price, Gallagher, Suzuki for me. What about you, Shane?
Price, that's such a good idea. I mean, I didn't think of that, but hey, if we can, I don't even know if we can since Luongo did it. I don't recall any other goalie being named captain, but
Me
if we
neither.
can, that'd be sick. I'd be so on board with that. You know, it's out of the box thinking, like you said, and you know, it does establish a culture because no matter what, Carey Price is the leader of this team when healthy. Obviously, went around the team, but aside from that, I think this is Galley's captaincy. Really, he's been there for so long. He's idolized. He's such a role model for everybody. So again, I'm not in the locker room. I don't know how he is, what kind of leader he'd be. We've heard Dale talk about it a bit. But for Suzuki, I mean, I feel like he's our next captain, right? Not the one coming, but the one after. That's
Next
how I feel.
generation.
Like, yeah. No questioning his leadership skills. I mean, he's definitely shown to be a leader. He's got the A. But is he really ready to be the captain of such a huge franchise right away? I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we don't want either of them, then may look elsewhere. I mean, Claude Giroux, we've had rumors. I've heard rumors around his name. Philadelphia is not doing well at all. And he's one of the most established leaders in the league. He's been captain forever. So there's going to be options, whether signing or trade, whatever. But no matter what, according to Kent Hughes, we are getting a captain next season, which I think is going to be a big breath of fresh air. I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but like this is something we've lacked desperately this season. Some leadership, some sense of personality. You know, who are we? Who are the Habs? It feels like it's just a bunch of players gathered on the ice trying to play hockey. It's not a team. So I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I feel like just having a captain, even if it's just a letter on a jersey, the symbolism really and what it means in a locker room is going to make a huge difference to our team.
I completely agree with that. I remember during the 2017-18 season, we sort of are going through the same thing during that season that we are going through now. I remember it was a really difficult and hard season to follow, and I kept through it as try to stay as Habs, keep the Habs activity going as much as possible. And it was definitely a tough season, but there was still a lot of Habs activity to go around that year. As I'm sure we know, Galchenyuk had a great year. Gallagher had a career year, and Drouin played great as well. And then I remember during the offseason, we, of course, made a couple of moves. I remembered, of course, Petry being traded for that. For that iconic blockbuster trade that Bergevin stayed up until like 1 a.m. to make. I remembered Suzuki, Tatar, Norlinder, and Legarrier were the guys that we all ended up getting from that trade. But I don't know if Legarrier is going to make an NHL impact. I don't think he will because of all the depth that we have. But I definitely see Norlinder making an NHL impact. Suzuki, of course, as I'm sure we know, and yeah, Tatar is unfortunately gone right now. But yeah, I remembered when we named Weber captain that season, I just felt that it was a breath of fresh air before that season because I didn't have the highest hopes going back into the 2018-19 season because it looked sort of to be a similar team to what the 2017-18 season. So I just felt once we got that captain, it was a breath of fresh air and the guys played loose and we could have easily made the playoffs that year. We were the best team in NHL history to ever miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
No, I think definitely when it comes to captains on any sports team, like a team without a captain is kind of like a choir without the maestro or the orchestrator or the conductor, whatever the proper term is. But you guys get what I'm saying. There's just it feels like there's something missing on the team, missing in some senses a lack of direction or a lack of compassion or intensity or just pride in general. And I mean, obviously, this is where alternate captains come in, and this is where these guys start making their case for whether or not they're ready to take on the main role. But I think this season, from what we've seen, we're just not as, I think, connected as a group collectively without our main guys. So this is definitely going to be breath of fresh air to hear that we have a captain coming in, that we will be led by somebody, obviously with the other alternates next season, which is definitely encouraging to see. And I don't know, for me, I think it will be held in the organization. I don't think they're going to bring in someone else who will be named captain, just because when you go back to Hughes's press conference, he said that he wants to bring in players and develop players who are Montreal Canadian players who fit that ideology and who will play for the CH, right? So, I mean, when you look at someone like Gallagher, I think he's really earned it over the years he spent with us. And when I think of Montreal Canadiens player, obviously Gallagher comes top of mind along with Price and a bunch of other guys, but definitely Gallagher's there. I mean, he's in the conversation year in, year out. If you ever need a captain who could fill in. So I think it's a no-brainer for me with Gallagher, and I definitely think it'll be held in organization for sure. I don't think they're going to bring in someone else, but yeah, that's just the way I see it. But yeah, definitely a breath of fresh air to hear that there will be someone to lead us on next season and going forward, obviously.
That's right. Very encouraging news. And looking forward here on the Habs schedule. Next game is against Minnesota, which is going to be a tough one. We know that top line with Kaprizov, Hartman, and Zuccarello is
Scary.
disgusting. So, yeah, it's not looking pretty. But again, we saw what we did tonight against one of the hottest teams in the league. We brought them to overtime. So if we circle back again one last time to tonight's game here, are there any other standouts, other players that you guys would like to single out?
Ooh, that's a fun question. I'm just gonna say this: like everyone, in my opinion, played it really well. As I'm sure we all know, Primo's first star of the night, obviously, but someone who I
Yeah.
felt quietly had a very good night for the most part was Mike Hoffman. As I'm sure we know, Mike Hoffman has not been the greatest defensively, but we know he's a forward and he's just meant to score goals. But he created some really nice plays in the power play. And also the other thing that I really liked with Mike Hoffman is he wasn't afraid to pass. As I'm sure we know, he made sort of that bumper slap pass down low to Dvorak, which eventually
Yeah.
led to the Suzuki game time goal. I'd love to see the team do more slap passing on the power play and just try to get more tips on the puck. I feel right now we're trying to shoot the puck more, and there's not enough bodies to redirect or tip the puck towards the net.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the players for me that really stood out, like you said, Primo, first star, undeniably, that guy played lights out. He's fantastic. Tyler Toffoli had a game too. I think now he's got 4 points in 3 games, and that saucer feed that he did at the beginning was unreal. And I mean, this guy, it just goes to show you what kind of team we could build when we're healthy. And it's unfortunate that we haven't been able to this season. And it just shows how much of a difference this guy makes when he's in the lineup. And it just goes to show you also the depth that we have. I think people like Jake Evans and Ryan Poehling really impressed me today with their physicality and their intensity and them getting in tight in the boards there to win those close battles against Colorado, because we've seen it, just winning those battles up against the boards like frees up the puck so that you could set up an opportunity to score on the power play like they did. So obviously these are things that get overlooked often, but no, I definitely noticed that Evans and Paling definitely put in their work tonight. And Dvorak too, we mentioned it before. He had a great game also. And that's one of the investment pieces that I'm happy to see progressing this season after a slow start. So those are my main standouts. What about you, Shaner?
Yeah, I like that you touched on Jake Evans. You know, he finished 65% on the face-off circle, and he just seemed involved tonight. He seemed like he had drive and a lot of energy, and that's what you need from a guy like Jake. So he's doing his role very well. He has been doing his role very well. He's more of a, you know, under the radar type of guy, but he's a guy that we cannot go without. Like, he's such an important part of the team going forward as well. He's still young. So looking forward to seeing what the boys can do here against Minnesota. Going to be a tough game, but hey, we know we got a surprisingly enjoyable game tonight. I was expecting a blowout, and many people were, but still brought them to OT somehow. And let's hope for something similar again. I believe I don't remember when the game is, but against Minnesota there. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, and go check out our socials. We got some great stuff on TikTok as well for you, and the merch store. Get your hats, get your shirts, get everything. We got some nice stuff there. So again, thank you boys for jumping on here, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Good night.
Thank you.